Welcome, Finger Lakes basketball fans, to a special Sunday night edition of the Upstate Hoops podcast on Finger Lakes 1 TV. It's December 22nd, 2013, and this is episode number 5 of our third season. We're coming at you live from the FingerLakes1.com studios in downtown Seneca Falls, New York. I'm Jim Sinacropi, and sitting in for my usual co-host, Matt Verke, is member of the Finger Lakes 1 sports team, fresh off his color commentary at the Waterloo Geneva game on Friday night, Kevin Korzeniewski. Thanks for filling in tonight, Kev.
No problem, Jim.
Glad to have you here.
It's a good Sunday evening of football just finished up, and time to talk a little basketball.
And I heard this got you out of a little present wrapping, too.
I was supposed to be present wrapping, and I made it sound to my wife like I was really doing an awful thing by coming down here, but I owe you one on this one.
Well, can you imagine if I had to sit here by myself and talk about high school basketball?
I'd tune in.
So, well, the Upstate Hoops podcast is brought to you by Generations Bank. Generations, a service for over 140 years. Visit them online at mygenbank.com and check out their new mobile banking app in the iPhone or Android app stores. And also by Red's Place, serving great lunches daily in downtown Seneca Falls. Come down and watch all the big games on one of their 10 flat-screen TVs and check them out online at menshalloffame.com. And Seneca Meadows Landfill, responsible waste management for the next generation. See how they do it by watching their videos at senecameadows.com. I got to apologize for not being online Thursday night like we normally are. I got a little sick in the afternoon and we had to cancel the shows, but that's why we're here tonight on Sunday. And it actually worked out pretty good because there's a nice holiday break coming up where there won't be too many games, and we get to fill in the action on Friday night across the Wayne Finger Lakes leagues. And there's a lot of games to get to this week. And before we get right to it, Kevin, you've seen Geneva twice now. You called the game in Newark and you called the game in Palmac, and they're undefeated, appear to be the class of the Finger Lakes East, which generally means class of the Wayne Finger Lakes. And what's your overall take on Geneva so far?
I'm most impressed with their coaching staff. They have the physical attributes that some teams don't have. We watched them against Waterloo the other night, and we said it during the game. Waterloo is more of a JV team. They have a few seniors that play sparingly, but
literally they're sophomores out there.
The core of their team is sophomores. So it was kind of a JV varsity game, and you really noticed how dominant their inside play is. And but I go back to that Newark game and Coach Miller having those kids prepared to play that game and win that game at Newark. Those two teams, I think if they played 10 times, would split 5-5. So I think that's a big win. I like what Geneva's done with their early season schedule, and I'm really impressed with the fact that they lost Sweeney
and Donahue.
And Donahue, and they haven't really missed too much of a beat. And it helps having those kids inside, but there's still chemistry issues and how the flow of the game, and there's a lot of things that were uncertain coming in with Geneva. And so I'm impressed with Coach Miller and his ability to get those kids to play hard and play as a unit. I'm impressed with the fact that the other kids have come, and Dolgos and Doduro, they've come in and filled right in for Sweeney. So kudos to Geneva, kudos to Coach Miller. They're the favorite to win the league at this point. They have to host Newark. I don't see Newark or Geneva losing to any other team. I mean, there are other teams that could sneak in, Wayne and Mynderse, and sit in the zone against those teams, make them shoot and have success. But they're to me a cut above the rest, and it'll come down to that rematch in Geneva. And Geneva obviously holds a wild card in being home in that. So very impressed with Geneva, its staff, and the kids.
Yeah, and I mean, there's two things for me is I've seen Sims and Johnson get better from last year, which is what you want to see, with young kids. And, Sims can play any position on the floor. He's 6'6". He can, handle the ball. He breaks presses for you. He steps out for the three. He had 18 or 19 rebounds against Waterloo. A lot of those were off his own misses. But
right. And you know what I like about Sims? Sims is a very similar player to Joe Maine Bogans. Yeah. And Sims seems to want to go inside first, outside second. And they both shoot it well. Bogans is a great shooter, too, for a big kid. But I want to see Bogans go inside first more, outside second. And I think that's what Sims, he'll start inside and work his way out. And the thing about Sims, that two things that I've noticed is, one, his wingspan is just enormous. I mean, yeah, sure, he's 6'6", but his wingspan's awesome. And the other thing is his confidence. He just has this air about him where he feels like he's the best player on the court, and that's okay to feel that. That's a court moxie that you wish some of your better players always had. Very confident, but not cocky. Never out of control. He's a great player, and what a compliment Johnson provides him. I mean, two guys like that on one team in the Finger Lakes is tough. And I really see Geneva as kind of a favorite to maybe pull off sectionals. I think Geneva and Newark have a really, really great shot at winning sectionals this year, which is, you talk about them in the Finger Lakes, they're great, they dominate, but in sectional play, they struggle because they're playing against a lot of city schools, and the A bracket's kind of tough. And I don't think that'll stop them this year. I think both of them have a really good shot at sectionals.
And E2, they don't have to beat Aquinas now in their section. Geneva doesn't. And we mentioned it's not a lot of action. There's some holiday tournaments this week, but we do got two games coming up at the end of this week that are very, very interesting games for any old school fan of Wayne Finger Lakes basketball, especially here in Seneca Falls or Clyde or Lyons or even the surrounding communities. You got Clyde coming into Mynderse on Friday night, and that's a game that we're doing on Finger Lakes 1 TV, so you'll be able to watch that live. And then the very next night, you got Lyons coming to Mynderse. And all those teams are pretty evenly matched. Clyde beat Mynderse in our season open broadcast back at the end of November 30th, by 4 in their own gym. And now they're going to rematch. We're going to see Joe Main Bogan match up against Luke Ruddy. And what do you think Mynderse has to do different in that game to turn the tide and get a win?
I'm looking forward to both those games. Just like you said, it's Christmas time. If you're not going away, and really outside of the Waterloo used to have that tip-off tournament. If
it was
recall.
the best. It was great.
They had Mynderse and Waterloo usually, then Lyons would come down, and then a city school would come down, and that was great. But they haven't had that in about 4 or 5 years. So to bring it back, it's not a tournament. It's just two teams playing, very close to home.
12 miles apart.
And it happens to be that all three are good. Mynderse got off to a slow start, but they had a tough schedule. A good team. Lyons is going to have a good season, and Clyde's having a good season. So it's exciting. But what Clyde in the Mynderse game, Mynderse needs to attack the inside. I still think Ruddy might be the best post player of all three of those kids. Just pure post player. He matches up with them size-wise, but the moves that Luke has and his ability to score on the post, I think that has to be a focal point for Mynderse. The one thing that we've talked about before, and I don't think it's a mystery to anybody or a surprise, is that Clyde isn't very deep. Where you look at Geneva and you look at Newark, they can bring 8 guys into the game that can play and play well. And I don't know if Clyde can do that. So they struggle if Bogan gets in foul trouble, and they struggle if DeSanto gets in foul trouble. So if Mynderse can get inside and put Clyde into foul trouble, they'll do well. And at the same time, against Lyons, Mynderse needs to attack their interior, because Lyons is extremely strong in their front court, better than Mynderse in the front court. So those are the keys for Mynderse.
But Lyons is small. They lose. Who was their big guy last year? Can't believe I can't think of his name right now. Trey Johnson. I was thinking Terrell. Yep. Trey Johnson.
Yep, Trey Johnson inside. And another kid, big wingspan, big shoulders, tall kid.
Yeah, they got Damon Hunter, Damian Scott, DJ Long, Tyler Collins, the great guard play, and so it's kind of like the games are almost opposites each other as far as Mynderse is concerned. They got to deal with not only Bogan and DeSanto, but Turner on the boards for Clyde, and Faniel, the point guard, is a tremendous athlete, and then you go against Lyons though, and you got a smaller team, but obviously great guard play, and with Hunter maybe being the best player on the court, that arguably with Luke Ruddy that night. So I think against Clyde you're going to need to see guys like after Ruddy you got Coffey's big guy for him. He's going to have to get rebounds. box out. Brian Johnson's going to have to do a good job on the boards. Guys like Devin Verkey, who's only a freshman, but it's a pretty big kid, pretty lanky. He's going to have to get involved. They're going to have to get rebounds against Clyde. Otherwise, I don't think they'll have a shot. I think the rebound is going to be key in that game. And against Lyons, I just think it's going to be a good, fast-paced basketball game, back and forth. And I think in both games, hopefully come down to the end.
Yeah, I don't see a lopsided affair in either game, unless I think the first night, if Ruddy gets in a lot of foul trouble or gets in any sort of foul trouble, Clyde could really take advantage of Mynderse inside. Clyde has the best 5 coming into the weekend. Out of the 3 teams, I think Clyde has the top 5 in talent-wise. But that's why you got to play the games. There's a lot of other factors you take into that, especially with high school students. You never know what's going to happen, and it should be a good weekend of basketball.
And how many years since Clyde or Lyons has played at Arthur L. Baker in Seneca Falls? Has it been 25 years? Has it been that long?
Well, I can only recall 20 to 25 years from what I graduated high school 20 years ago, and I don't.
Dean Schott?
No, I don't know. The Dean, and that would be 22, 23 years, and they haven't played. There was a game when I I want to say
Terry
Brown played at Seneca Falls, and there was no 3-point line. And I think if there was a 3-point line, would maybe scored 100 because he didn't miss and he was hitting from everywhere.
Like
so
1985.
I would say about 87, 88. I remember that game. So because he wasn't too much older than us, I would have been about 8th grade. That would have been about 1988. So that's the last time I remember Clyde going. I have no recollection. That'd be a good question for Rod Verkey. He would, he'd know the answer to that.
Well, hopefully we see a nice big crowd for both those games. A lot of former students home for Christmas break will probably be turning out for those games.
We always played Waterloo over Christmas break, whether it was at Waterloo or was at home. And I think Joe Spazzato and Coach Scott Smith had a lot to do with that. They tried to make that an event that we played over Christmas break so the students could come back because there was always a bigger crowd. So. I would imagine you'd see a lot of players from last year at the gym, and if anybody that's in town will be watching as well.
And of course, if you can't make it out to the gym, FingerLakes1.com, FingerLakes1.tv. Both games will be live. The Clyde game on Friday is a 7:30 tip. The Lions game's a 5:30 tip, a little earlier, which I was disappointed because Syracuse plays Villanova at 2:00. But I think that hopefully. We'll be able to time it out right.
Louisville plays at 4 too. I know right after Louisville, and that's
so that Lions Minders game's up against Louisville, Kentucky.
Is that Louisville? No, it's not. Is it Louisville, Kentucky?
It must be. Don't they usually play about now?
I saw it flash across the screen today. I said, "Man, what a great afternoon of basketball for college."
Yeah, well, you can
Syracuse, Villanova game should be a nice game.
And if you want to watch on your smartphone, you download the FingerLakes1.tv app, and then you click on FingerLakes1.tv. You can watch it on your phone, watch it on your tablet, your iPad, or your computer. But plan on it. Gather some people around the old TV, hook up a laptop to the TV, and it should be a great night of basketball. I think what we got on Friday night, it's Dave Barnick and Matt Verkey, and then on Saturday night, Harold Weber and Kevin Korzeniewski on the call. So you've never worked with the Web Dog before?
I have never worked with a Web Dog. I've done a podcast with a dog a couple times.
Oh yeah. He's beloved. Like when I've mentioned to a few people over the past couple of days. Yeah, Harold Weber's coming back to do that Minders Lions game, and they get really excited. Like there's a lot of people have a real affinity for him because he kind of symbolizes the. The older days of when WSFW was everybody was listening to Minders games on WSFW.
I think Barnick and Weber both bring that nostalgic touch to it. So I'll have to have my A game for Saturday night.
Oh, yeah, no doubt about that. Well, let's take a quick look around the leagues over the past 10 days, and let's start with the Finger Lakes West. Last Thursday night, going back about 10 days, you had Dundee beating Harley Allendale Columbia 68-54. That was a little test for Dundee. He had Coach Les Miller on the show a few weeks ago, and he said HAC was a team he had to look out for. Well, they got the win thanks to Justin Brace's 19 points. John Huber also with 19. That moved Dundee to 5-0. Naples defeated Honeoye 74-58, and it was Andrew Fleischman with 21 points there, 6 3-pointers. Bloomfield beat Red Jacket 78-36. South Seneca beat Romulus 66-22 in a game, a little bit of a rivalry game there. And it was Lincoln Lowe with 18 points for South Seneca.
Now, you say a little bit of a rivalry there?
Just a little bit, yeah.
I think that rivalry is picked up this year with that merger out there.
Oh, yeah, no doubt. I guarantee.
That might be a bigger rivalry than normal, I think, in normal years.
Yeah, I guarantee that that everybody in both communities was keeping an eye on that one. And actually, South Seneca rolled it. I was thinking it would be a pretty close game.
Tripled them up, 66-22.
Yeah, and that was South Seneca's first win of the season. They picked up a second win this week as well. Red Jacket and HAC played in a crossover. HAC defeated Red Jacket 56-47, and Dundee beat Prattsburg 77-57. That moved Dundee to 6-0. Jarrett Butler had 20 points, and Brace had 19 that night. Moving ahead to Tuesday night, Dundee played Red Jacket and beat them 77-62. And that moved Dundee to 7-0. Justin Brace, 19 points, 8 rebounds. Jarrett Butler, 11 points, 9 rebounds. And Andrew Clark, 10 points, 11 assists. Tyler Kelly, 16 points. Red Jacket was led by Glenn Austin with 22 points and 10 rebounds. HAC defeated Honeoye 67-44. Naples lost to Bloomfield. This was a pretty big game, 59-51. Bloomfield remained undefeated at 4-0. They're looking to be the biggest contender for Dundee in the West. They both remain undefeated, and Naples 4-2 on the year. It was Wayne Conklin with 12 points, Brian Doolin with 12 points, 11 rebounds to lead the Bombers. Then on Friday night, it was Bloomfield 66, Romulus 23. Bloomfield had 12 from Alex Flattery that night, and 11 from Conklin to move to 5-0. Tim Mastelar had 10 for the Warriors, who are now 0-7. And then mentioned South Seneca picking up their second win. It was on Friday night. They defeated Honeoye 46-27, so it was a pretty easy win to move to 2-3. Eric Dresser had 19 points for the Falcons. And then Marcus Whitman had to play Dundee. Marcus Whitman coming over from the east to the west and putting up some big offensive numbers this year. But Les Miller Scots handled them pretty easy, 74-55. Justin Brace with 21 points in that one. Luke Shively had 18 to lead Whitman. Whitman's now 3-2. Dundee 8-0 to start the year. So I don't know, Kevin. We don't get a lot of looks at the teams in the West, but it looks to me like a two-man race: Bloomfield and Dundee.
Yeah, no doubt. A lot of score watching. I read the paper, but I'd be surprised if either one of those teams don't come out of there with a Finger Lakes West championship. And really, it seems to me Dundee maybe a little bit more of a favorite than Bloomfield.
I think they play right after the break, those two, and that's the game of the year in the West. Let's move ahead to the Wayne County League. Last Thursday night, Clyde defeated Gananda 60-44, and a pretty big game for Clyde. Always wondering if Gananda or ER or HAC or who's going to step up in the West to compete with Clyde and Lyons, but Clyde with a 16-point victory. Jermaine Bogan had a career high 33 points, 11 rebounds, 5 assists to go along with that. And Brad Dowie had 15 for Gananda. East Rochester defeated Red Creek 59-51, despite 30 points from Jacob Slobe. Phineas Jocks 15, Trey Miller 12 to lead ER. Both those teams were 2-2 after that contest. And then Lyons easy over Whitman 70-40. DJ Long 17 points, 10 rebounds. Damon Hunter 16 points on 4 3-pointers, also 6 assists. And Damian Scott 13 points and 5 assists. On Tuesday night, a little Finger Lakes West Wayne County crossover. Sodus beat South Seneca 63-41. And it was Ignacio Ruiz and Amani Heath with 15 points apiece to lead Sodus, who was 3-1 after that one. Wednesday night, overtime matchup between East Rochester and Gananda. And East Rochester had to hit a game-tying 3 to send the game to overtime. It was Zach Hauser, ended up with 15 to send the game into OT, where ER eventually prevailed. Trey Miller had 19. Justin Reho had 19. Final score in that was 72-63. Lyons all over Marion on Wednesday night, 67-24. Damon Hunter was 16 and DJ Long with 14. North Rose Wolcott moved to 5-0, defeating Williamson 59-45. Chris Dean, 26 points and 11 rebounds, as the North Rose Wolcott Wildcats are a contender this year. It's looking like. Also on Wednesday night, Clyde trailed by 1 to Red Creek at the half, but used a 30-11 outscoring of Red Creek in the second half to cruise to 52-34 victory. Jomaine Bogan with 17, Cam DeSanta with 13 in that game, and Jacob Slobe with 13 to lead Red Creek. Thursday night, East Rochester Oliver Marion 67-41. Then Friday night, it was Gananda defeating Williamson 61-50. Lyons beating Red Creek 50-49. Jacob Slobe 29 big points in the losing effort. And Lyons 4-1 on the year after that one. And then finally, it was Clyde defeating Sodus 79-38. And in that one, it was Cam DeSanta with 29 points and 7 rebounds. Jomaine Bogan, 17 points, 11 rebounds. Joe Faniel, 14 points. What about that Lions-Red Creek game, Kevin? 1-point game. Did you get a chance to talk to Zach Young about that?
You know, we did speak a little bit about it, and he gave a lot of credit to Red Creek. And obviously, if they're up on Clyde by a point and they take Lions to the wire, this Jake Slobe is quite a player. And, you know, hats off to Red Creek, who people talked about North Rose being the third best team in Wayne County this year, but I think Red Creek is going to be right there contending with them. They don't have the record that North Rose does, but North Rose hasn't played Lyons or Clyde yet. So,
right.
You know,
do you think that's the mirage? You think that, I mean, we've neither one of us seen North Rose play. Heard a lot about Chris Dean from year to year. This year he seems to be, improving even more. But do they have any chance of unseating Lyons or Clyde?
Talent-wise, I don't think so. I know Coach Brian Hoyt over in North Rose does a great job with his kids. They're disciplined and patient. I coached against him for many years, and he does a great job with his kids. So he'll have a great plan of attack for both of those teams. He's just not going to have the talent that Lyons and Clyde's has. And Lyons and Clyde. And then one thing you got to understand, it's a league game. I mean, these guys know each other. They play AAU. Yeah. So, you know, when you cross over, sometimes you might not know the kids as well. The coaches have coached against each other for years, so they know their offenses very well. And, you know, and that's what we talk about Geneva and Newark, you know, running the tables. But they could easily lose any night, and it wouldn't shock me if Penyan beats Geneva or Mynderse would beat Geneva.
Yeah.
So, you know, Red Creek, though, didn't really come out with the wins, but had a pretty good week.
Yeah, and it's tough when you score 29 points, lose by 1. And Clyde, you know, against Mynderse, it seemed like they should have won by more. They only won by 4 points. They're trailing, you know, at halftime to Red Creek. And as dominant as like Clyde appears on paper, I still got question marks about them because they don't seem to be as consistently dominant as you think they would.
Right, and again, they can bring one kid off the bench. I think it's Faniel,
Jared
Faniel, and outside of that, they have to be a little bit deeper. You're playing a couple games a week, and the flu runs through your team. You get in foul trouble. You know, sometimes you just get tired. Who knows what's going on? And the other teams that'll be more consistent are probably a little bit deeper. But, you know, I agree with you in the fact that if you look at the starting 5 at Clyde, and on paper, they're better than everybody. You know, they're tougher than everybody in Wayne County. Now, in the Finger Lakes, Wayne, I'm not sure about that, but in their league they are. Yeah. There's no doubt about it. They're the most talented team. How hungry are they? How well are they executing? We've only seen them once. We're going to see them again this weekend. But
and we said the same thing about them last year, and Lyons ends up splitting the Wayne County co-champ. And last year Clyde beat Lyons at Lyons, and then Lyons beat Clyde at Clyde. So it's very kind of similar to last year. And Damon Hunter, I think, it might have something to say too about us, saying that all the talent's with Clyde. I think that he might feel like he's the best player, in the world.
He does. I don't know if he does, and I know Damon Hunter, and he's a very good player.
Yep.
But he's also a junior,
right?
And he's still the new kid on the block. He got brought up last year, halfway through the year, and sure, he's talented, but Joe Maine Bogans is a very talented player, and Cam DeSanto is good. Clyde has a little bit more talent than Lyons.
Yep. Yeah, I'd agree with you there. All right, let's take a move ahead here to the FL East, where last Friday night, Geneva was all over Mynderse, 72-49. They actually led 65-22 after the third quarter. That was kind of a shocking result to see. But, I guess it's pretty clear that, Mynderse isn't going to be winning the Finger Lakes East this year.
No.
Whether they can win sectionals or not is another story.
Well, that's a whole other story. They could go 500 in the league and still be a contender for their
just like last year. They finished third or fourth in the East.
Yep.
And won a sectional title and went through the Class C playoffs into states.
That's another game that I think you'll see a little bit closer. Mynderse started off with Clyde and lost.
Yeah.
And then they played Wayne and lost. And then I kind of think Caraher didn't play a lot that game, and they probably needed him to
his ankle injury, yeah.
And he played a little bit against Pelmac, and then was finally, I think, recovered against Penn Yan the other night. But if you're not ready to go against Geneva, just their size in the interior will get you, because those kids rebound and punish you inside.
Got Newark 70, Pelmac 44, Penn Yan 63, Mid Lakes 48. At that point, Penn Yan's 3-0. Very balanced attack. Bradley Voigt had 17 that game. Ben Covert 16. Sean Emerson 10. Mason Jones had 18 for Mid Lakes. Wayne was all over Waterloo 73-41. Mike Hollenbeck had 18 points and 5 blocks in that one. Moving ahead to Tuesday night of this past week. Newark 69, Mid Lakes 42, and Mynderse 52, Pelmac 43. That was a game that was on FingerLakes1.com Sports. Jason Anderson had 14, Devin Verkey had 12, Trevor Wager had 13 for Pelmac. That was actually head coach Nick Ciotti's first win as a head coach for Mynderse, and then this was just kind of a ridiculous result. Marcus Whitman 75, Romulus 10. And Luke Shively had 19.6 rebounds. We know Romulus struggles, but when a team wins 75-10, I heard that the Whitman folks were not happy with the way the Romulus girls put it on their girls' team.
Oh, really?
And that they wanted to, put it back on the boys' side.
Well, if that's the case, then you'd hate to see him run it up. Or I'm not. I don't know what happened in that game, but I know looking at, the fact that Romulus has scored 20 points against a couple other teams.
Yeah.
If Romulus just goes out and has a bad night, maybe they do only score 10 points.
Yeah.
I'll take that game out. They're only averaging 20 points a game.
Yeah, put that game in, and it's
now they're averaging 16, 17 points a game. So, obviously Romulus might have a couple more games like that this year, but I'd be interested to hear a little bit more about how that
Yeah, I was just asking about what the heck happened there, and I was told that, the Whitman folks weren't happy with how bad the Romulus girls beat their girls team. So, that's kind of the way it goes, I guess.
Yeah, you got to support your own community.
Yeah, right? Absolutely. Penn Yan 63, Waterloo 44. Ben Covert was 16 to move the Mustangs to 4-0, and really kind of an early surprise in the East. After losing the president, James Burdett, to graduation last year, they've still come back. And I guess Penn Yan had a pretty good JV team last year, so I guess it's not too much of a surprise. And then on Tuesday night, probably the game of the week, Geneva 61, Wayne 56. And despite the win, Ray Sims, 20 points, 11 rebounds, 4 assists. Kia Jackson, 17 points. For Wayne, it was Hollenbeck with 16. But I thought the game was kind of close. I didn't think Wayne lost Trey Lamora, Ben Bobo. I thought that Geneva would win by a wider margin, if I was handicapping.
Yeah,
the game.
and it wouldn't be surprising if they did again. And I think at one point that game was stretched to about a 15-point lead. I think Wayne chipped away and got back into it in the fourth quarter. But, and we weren't at that game, so who knows what happens. But good for Wayne to get it that close to Geneva. It's kind of like that Clyde game, Mynderse we went to. I think the final score was Mynderse only by 4 or 5, or Mynderse down 4 or 5. But if you had watched the game, Clyde was in control most of the game.
Yeah. So it's a little misleading. Then on Friday night, we talked about it. Geneva 61, Waterloo 35. Mid Lakes loses to Pelmax 61-42. And it was Newark with a big win over Wayne, 50-49. Jamie Rosser led the way with 14 for the Reds in that one. And huge win for Mynderse. Traveling to Penyan, they win 79-74. Luke Ruddy with 29 big points. Liam Carher returns to the stat sheet with 16 points on 3 3-pointers, and Brian Johnson with 16. Again, balanced on Penyan's side. Covert with 19. Austin Fingar with 19. Bradley Voigt with 14. Sean Emerson with 13. But that was a nice win for Mynderse.
I think a needed win for Mynderse. Yeah, not only nice, but needed in the fact that they got Clyde and Lyons coming to town this weekend, and they could go 0-2. I don't think they will, but they could go 0-2 this weekend. So taking a little momentum into those tough 2 non-league games this weekend.
All right, let's. We're running a little bit behind here, but let's move ahead. And we're gonna give our Wayne Finger Lakes Players of the Week. Now, you win a FingerLakes1.com T-shirt if you're selected, but you do have to email us at upstatehoops@fingerlakes1.com with your address and shirt size, and we'll send one out to you. My pick is a guy who's got a Finger Lakes 1 T-shirt already, maybe 2. I think he's won this award before, but it's Ray Sims from Geneva. Look at these games. 25 points versus Mynderse, 20 points, 11 rebounds versus Wayne, and 17 points and 18 rebounds versus Waterloo. So, very consistent across the board, and all those points came from inside, outside. He's handling the ball, and he's pulling down rebounds. Ray Sims Jr. is my pick. How about you, Kevin, sitting in for Verk? Who you got?
I like your pick on Sims, though. I
got the first pick.
Doubles all the way.
Yeah.
But now, so I'm going to make my pick, and I'm going to go with a guy that lost a couple games this week. And, obviously he's doing some good things, helping his team out. But I'm going with Red Creek's Jacob Slobe. So I don't know if that's his first time on getting this award or not. But obviously a great game against Lyons, and he led his team against Clyde as well. They came up short. But I'd be interested to seeing him play. I'd like to get a chance if I can, maybe next time he comes around the area.
Yeah, so congratulations to Junior Sims is what they call him, and Jacob Slobe. And remember, email us upstatehoops@fingerlakes1.com with your T-shirt size and mailing address, and you'll get, well, at this point, it's going to be a late Christmas present. It'll probably arrive on Thursday or Friday, but a sweet new fingerlakes1.com T-shirt. Moving ahead to our Finger Lakes Power Rankings, this is the part of the show where we give a top 5 across all the leagues in the Wayne Finger Lakes. They're all different classes, different leagues. These rankings don't mean anything other than a talking point, but it is interesting to kind of see how these, how we feel these teams kind of stack up against each other. And I'll run through mine quick first. I got Lyons at 5. Actually, mine is exactly as it was last week. Nothing's changed. Lyons is at 5. The only team I considered maybe putting in there instead of Lyons was Bloomfield, but I'm going to wait the result of the Bloomfield-Dundee game before I do anything like that. Dundee 4. Love Les Miller Scots. The balance and great kids, great chemistry on that team. Newark Reds 3. I got Clyde at 2 still, ahead of Newark, still undefeated. And Geneva 1. Brian Miller's Panthers back at 1 for me. Now this is new. Usually we hear Verk's top 5. So I don't know what to expect here. So what's your top 5?
Well, I've seen Dundee play once on one of your broadcasts, and I was impressed with Dundee. And so I'm gonna go with a 2-way tie there because I think Wayne's having a pretty good season. So I'm gonna go a tie for 5 with Wayne and Dundee. And from there, I'm going to go with Zach Lyons or Zach Young's
Yep.
Lions at 4, and Clyde at 3. And then my top 2, I think I told you this on one of the broadcasts, are Geneva and Newark. And Geneva is my number 1 team with the fact that they're undefeated.
And beat Newark, yeah.
And beat Newark. But I like Newark. I like Michael Wright. I like what they have. I think they bring some stuff off the bench. And I was really impressed with Jamie Rosser when we did the Geneva game. Those kids handle the ball. I think Newark could be the best team. But Geneva beat them, so I'm putting Geneva ahead of Newark in this. In my poll.
I just can't get over the lack of size compared to Geneva with Newark, and I was impressed with the guards that for Geneva. Kia Jackson gets overlooked a lot. He's pretty active. From baseline to baseline.
He's awesome. I've never talked to Coach Miller about Akia Jackson, but I gotta imagine that he's happy he's around because he just works so hard. And we watched the Waterloo game the other night. And Waterloo had 4 guys in the paint, and Kia Jackson took it at him, missed a shot, got his own rebound over 4 kids, and put it back in. And I'm not calling out the Waterloo kids because Kia Jackson could do that against numerous teams in the Finger Lakes. He works so hard, and he's just a great spark.
He's kind of an intangible guy. He reminds me a little bit of DJ Long at Lyons. He's never seemed to be the headliner, but he's the guy doing the work.
Yeah, he plays great defense, gets a lot of rebounds. Just a nice kid to have in your lineup.
Well, I'm just about ready to wrap it up here on a special Sunday night edition of the Upstate Hoops podcast, and just want to give you a quick look at the week ahead. Monday night, there is 2 games. Mid-Lakes visits Marcus Whitman. That's the East-West game. And School of the Arts visits Wayne. And then we take a little break for Christmas, come back on Friday night where there's tons of teams in action in tournaments, various tournaments. Also, we got is it Jeff Ike coaching Fayetteville Manlius Pebble Hill?
Yeah, Pebble Hill. Jeff Ike, a Waterloo grad. He's a teacher at Jamesville DeWitt, but a coach at Fayetteville Manlius. He's bringing his team to Waterloo on Friday night. So a bit of a reunion for the Ike family, a longtime basketball family in Waterloo, a mother phys ed teacher. So they're probably pretty excited about that. If you're a Waterloo grad, get yourself over to that gym.
And that's expected to be a pretty good game, pretty competitive game.
Yeah, I think so. Yep. Pebble Hill is a small school, but they have a pretty decent team. So, we'll see what happens there. Waterloo trying to get their first win of the season.
And Aquinas, Geneva's off to the Aquinas tournament. They play it every year. They'll play Aquinas. They're not in the same class this year, but it's always a huge measuring stick for Brian Miller's team.
I'm not sure if I saw this on one of your earlier shows or I read it in the paper, but Brian Miller requested to play Aquinas first in that tournament
because he wanted to make sure they played.
Yeah, because the kids really wanted to take another crack at Aquinas, and he asked. Sometimes you go to that tournament, you don't want to go against the host team or you don't want to go against a better team, but he asked that they play Aquinas, so good for him. And
at the end of the day, you're only worried about your record. I mean, that does matter for sectional points, but you don't get too hurt too bad when you're playing up, and I think it just helps prepare your team for,
If you have a good team, you play the best that you can to get yourself ready for sectionals, I believe. And I'll be really pulling for Geneva in that game because I'm not a big fan of the private schools playing in the Section 5 tournament as well.
Yeah, we've talked about that a lot on the show.
A lot of small schools and outside of, I don't like it. So I'm always rooting for the public school in that one.
We got Newark heading down to Elmira for a Elmira tournament. That's usually a tournament that Mynderse plays in, but I used to talk to Nick Ciotti about that, and it's a lot of traveling, and he was faced with that scenario over having these games at home with Clyde and Lyons, and I'm so glad that
it's great for the local basketball fan. Nick's not a teacher, so he probably doesn't have 2 weeks off. And I used to like to take my team. I think we talked about this away for the Christmas break and do a little bonding and try to bring the team together. But as far as what Mynderse has going on this weekend, I think that's pretty cool too.
Penn Yan tournament. Penn Yan hosting their own tournament, playing Wayland Cohocton, Palmax and Syracuse, Williamson, Wayne, and Mid-Lakes all playing in the tournament up in Ontario, New York. Prattsburg tournaments featuring Naples. Red Jacket tournament, Red Jacket hosting. Gananda's having a tournament. And then, of course, we got the Mynderse versus Clyde, 7:30 Friday night. Lyons at Mynderse, 5:30 Saturday night. Both games on Finger Lakes One Sports and FingerLakes1.tv. And that about wraps it up for this edition of the Upstate Hoops podcast. We're off this next coming Thursday night. That's a planned outage. Last week was unexpected. This week we're taking a little Christmas break, and there's not too much action between now and then. Be sure to check out those webcasts. And Kevin, thanks so much for sitting in. You're a fountain of knowledge and opinions on local high schools basketball, and looking forward to hearing you and the Web Dog on the call Saturday night at Arthur L. Baker.
Yeah, thanks for having me. And I'm not sure about a fountain of knowledge, but I got an hour of Christmas wrapping tonight. So
it was a win-win for everybody.
Yes, hopefully my wife's not watching, which I'm pretty guarantee that she's probably not.
You don't think she tunes in for this?
Well, I can go home and check my history on the.
Yeah, she might say she doesn't, but secretly she does.
Let you know.
Yeah. Well, thanks again, and Merry Christmas to you and your family. And let's see here. For our live viewers, we are coming back tonight at 10 with Brad Connor for the Upstate Orange podcast, where we'll preview Syracuse's out-of-conference game this weekend against Villanova, or next weekend. This weekend. Yeah, this is Sunday night. And then we'll be back on January 20th or January 2nd for our first show of 2014. And thank you all again for joining us on the Upstate Hoops podcast. For my tonight's co-host, Kevin Korzeniewski, I'm Jim Sinacropi. Merry Christmas. Have a great holiday.